what we saw was, like in earlier case, we talked about data section and prospectively the BSS. Fine. And we explicitly have addressed issue in whenever we have a string, how exactly it is to be converted. Correct. And next thing was like how exactly we are going to process the integers, if at all they are there. So integers would be somewhat tricky rather to work out, because like how exactly you will write them into Little Indian notation. That would be one tricky, because it is to be only stored or written in the form. You are not going to process that data ultimately right now. Correct. So that's why I said it would be somewhat tricky rather to work out. Another thing is like with respect to the computation of bytes. Like if I take example of, say, for a while the LST that we had. If I take this p.lst file, you will see here like the computation for each and every element that is added there. Right. Suppose if I talk about, say, this array 1, right, you will see that it started at 0. Then every character it gave 2 digits rather, which comprises to a byte. Okay, and it started that translation for each and every character that came along, and then when it ended, it shifted to next number or next value. So that's what array 2. So if I see over here, like how many number of characters do you have over here? Accordingly, this address needs to be computed. Okay, whatever the representation that would be there. For example, array 1 would be at 000. Array 2 would be at 005. But when it goes into execution mode, rather, these would not be the numbers that are referred over there. Correct. So if I write, say, for example, let me take the code of ASM which we wrote. If I see this code 06 08 2021.asm. So if you see this code, rather, we have these elements added. So if I try to translate this code, right? So say, for example, NASM dash F ELF 32060821.asm, and I'm not generating any LST file right now. So if I go and check for this output of NM, okay, the representation added there for other symbol. O. So you will see that array 1 is stored at this number. This is array 2. So this array 10 was from BSS. So if I see 06 08 2021, open this into another window so that it would be, we have good visibility of it. 06 08 21.4. So you have these numbers. So if I see this code, rather ASM file, now you can compare. See, we have array 1, which is part of data section. So it is showing us with this. Correct. Next number is array 2. So if I go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So 0 to 14, that's how it would be. So starting with 0. So next number definitely, or next value would be definitely at F. So if I see that, that also can be seen for array 2, which starts at here F. Correct. So array 3 would be again the next number. So you will see here, while the NM output is displayed, it is taking with respect to the string or identifier that is declared. So array 1, array 10, array 2, array 20, array 3, array 30. It doesn't care whether it is from data section or BSS section. Correct. So even like when we go towards this int A, int B kind of variables which are added towards BSS, they also are added. So this seems to be a sorted order in terms of, when I say sorted order, order of the identifier which are stored somewhere along with their addresses. So these seems to be like the code that is added in our object code. Correct. So if I generate an executable from it, so let us go here and generate gcc-n32 060821.4. Okay, and let me add some more thing here. G dash f dwarf gcc dash g dash dwarf. And now if I talk about this nm a dot out, now try to see those variables that we added there. So none of them would be available right now. Okay. So what are the variables that we added? So see the number that is added over here. So if I go along with by adding 14 to 8, so this 8 is an hex number, correct? 4008. So this is the address that it got in executable file. So this is after translation, and at runtime it may have another number over there. So these elements are added here, but they are now having different addresses generated altogether. So 8. So if I start from 8, 9, 0A, 0B, 0C, 0D, 0E, or sorry, we can say only E kind of thing. Then 0F, then 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So if I go with 15, the next number would be 17. So if I add 15 into hex 8, it would be becoming as 17. So that's why your array 2 starts over here. Correct. Similarly, if I go with array 2 total, like sum, rather, if you see, it ended here F. So it started, array 3 started at 1F. So ultimately, length looks to be nearly 20 or something like that. Correct? Or 10 kind of stuff. So if I go here and check the value, to see same thing, like I have again same values added there for array 2. Correct. So this again is 15. So if I add now 15 to this 17, so it is not decimal addition, correct? It is going again in terms of say hex. So it is coming to somewhat as 27. Correct. Similarly, array 3, array 4. So there are different kinds of bindings involved. One is assembly time binding, which we saw earlier, okay, through NM, by considering contents of .o file. Then we shifted our scope rather to an executable which we generated using linker. Correct. This gave us an a dot out. So this a dot out, when we checked it with NM again, so this is what are the addresses those are generated. These are actual translation addresses. And when I execute rather this code, suppose if I execute gdb/a.out. Okay, so if I go with say array 1, so what it says, I don't know what exactly it is. So if I see this array, it is written as what? ARRAY1. Then why it is not showing us that one? If I write like this, even it doesn't have this information. Why it is showing this way rather? Why it is not permitting us to really access the elements? Was there any another method, or does it have any other mechanism rather to display the value of a variable? Because I want to know what exactly the addresses are. Right. So how can I get that? So let us try this. So let us go to our code. Emacs array 1.asm. So I simply will move that value. Okay, so this is our code. So what I will do is simply I will write here array 1. Now let us see this. Now it should give us kind of value. So let us try to translate. I made a change. I like if you let me show you what I did rather. If you see what I did was I moved array 1. So whenever it is without square bracket, that means you are passing an address. Fine. So let us go with link the code, and let us say gdb./a.out. Okay. Now let us set a breakpoint. Run. Now let me display $ex1. Right. Now if I say next instruction, you will see that it is showing us some address. Okay. So if I try to see what is the value at that address, so I'm using /c because I want to display it as a character. So if I write here $ex, this is the first character that we have with that address. So this address, whatever the address that we got with array 1, this address binding was done. So we saw 3 aspects there. Okay, what are those aspects? Added. One aspect is there is a translation time binding at 2 places. I got one address at the translation, one address at linking, and one address at execution. These are the different 3 types of bindings: translation time, linking time, and runtime binding. Correct. So my counter, whatever the counter that would be used here. So am I going to use EIP there, instruction pointer or a program counter? Maybe yes, maybe no. Because if I see this code exactly when it fires, if I try to see this instruction where whatever it is showing me as a line number rather here. But actually in binary mode, it is having some address associated with this instruction too. So where can we see this? Let us see. So in LSP file, you should be able to see that part, the address lsp.lsp. So you will see this is what it is getting here. So this is its address. So it is at a 000. Correct. Similarly, if I see the code obj dump -d 0608 21.0 pipeless. Let us go to main. Okay, so let us go to main. Now, if you see, this is showing it as address 0, right? Because it is taking this as like number of bytes counting only. Right. So this would be at object code. Now, if similarly, if I take same thing with my executable a.out. Now let me see where exactly main is. Let us go below. So I'm pressing page down so as to reach to that particular level of main. So we got init. Now somewhere we should get main here. Yeah. Now this is the address that it got at debugging time, because we said ./a.out. Correct. Now even you can see that when we said array 1 should be EAX. Now this is array 1, which is represented here as 4008. Somewhere it definitely would be defined whatever the array 1 variable it is, like what are the variable that we wrote, and the address computed for it is 000011A0. This is the complete address that it got. When we are saying that this would be at runtime, ultimately this kind of bindings are to be tracked by us as a system programmer. Now what generally happens is, if you see, like I will give you some say outlines rather, or you may say how exactly one can find out whether there is a virus or not. Can somebody tell me, with reference to the experience that you have? How will you find out that there is a virus if you don't have an antivirus system with you? How will you check whether there is a virus, or how will you conclude that there is a virus infection? Can somebody help me in this case? Can you help me? So symptoms may not help every time. No? Symptoms of the system may not help every time. Then how will you work out whether is there any infection or not? So what they do generally, like they do try to see this kind of code. What is the code that we are seeing? What kind of code is added there? Now let us say that whenever I'm writing this ad, simply do kind of like, if you want to waste your time, simply add one label over here. Suppose, for example, ABC. You suppose you added that ABC here, and simply here, say here, for example, jump to ABC. Keep on doing this. So one time would be there when it is going to give you segmentation fault, but then it is going to terminate code at anyway, because it would be reaching to that extreme level. So instead of add, if it is move, then only simply keep moving the data from EX to EBX, EX to EBX. There is no change happening, and simply jump. It would be infinite code written. That's what you generally see. Na? Like whenever you write a code, your code enters into some infinite execution mode. How can you write that? Let me show you. Max infinite code. That's awesome. System.text global main to EX comma EBX jump main. Okay, so let me try to assemble this. NASM-APLF32 infinite code.asm. Sorry, I forgot to write section.text and section text. Attribute text. SCCTI. Yeah. So that G dash F dwarf GCC dash M32 infinite code.o dash G dash F dwarf. And you simply say this. Now you will see that it is not responding at all to your code. You keep on pressing this, nothing will happen. Correct. So either you press Control C, come out of it. Okay. So let us try to debug the code and now see what happens. Say breakpoint main run and see the instruction that is shown one by one. So it is going to 5, going back to 4, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. It is jumping and it is continuing that execution. See, I pressed enter key. As we are not making any change in the stack, ultimately what is happening is nothing is happening. Rather that way, it is only coming from statement 1 to statement 2, statement 2 to statement 1. Right? Continuously it is doing that stuff. But if it is something like add, then again, like it can come out of that loop. Okay, so if I make the change here and simply replace this by add. Let us try translate in. So if I execute at one point of time, let us see like where it stops. So the processing actually is carried out. It's already done at that end. Okay, so you may see like, okay, for example, you may assume over here like whether what is happening. So let us ps dash stat. You can see that it is R plus. It is running. Right? This is the state that we are seeing R plus. Correct. So if I press Control C, then it came out of the code. That a dot out is removed ultimately. And when it is waiting for some input, suppose if I write a code rather which is waiting for an input, let us see if I can show you star.c LTR.
Hello, sir. You are not audible.
That got executed in background mode. Now, when it is getting executed in background mode, still if I try to press enter, right, I pressed enter one more time. Fine. And if you try to see now contents of it, seems I got the terminal. If I try to see contents of it again, like when I press enter in this case, so if I go to other terminal, you will see that my files are gone. Whatever a.out was there, which was in sleep mode, because the status is changing. The state of each process is changing depending upon the input. So when my process is executed over here, the way that it was applied with respect to this file, when I executed this, it was in execution. Correct. It was in execution and it is running. That's why on the other side of the terminal, I do see that the process is in R plus for my a.out. This is my a.out. This is my a.out. So let me press Ctrl L and display this for you. This is my dot out, and you will see that this is R plus. This is running mode. Right. So when it is running, ultimately, other process which I fire maybe when it is waiting for my getchar, so it is waiting for some input. That in that case, like what we saw with earlier example here, okay, it was waiting for my input that time. So that's why it entered into sleep mode, because it is waiting for some IO. Right now, it is not waiting for some IO. It is doing some computation internally. That's why one can see that yes, it is still in running mode. Now, why I'm rather addressing this part to you peoples, correct? So it was because like when we tried creating those addresses, execution addresses, your program may enter into infinite mode. But when we do talk about our code, rather, what are the code that we wrote? It definitely would be getting some addresses internally. How the address calculation should be done then? Like how exactly it will jump from one line to other line when the control is to be transferred. So you may have to ultimately work with different registers too. Okay, so now what I will do is I will try to show you simply some of the flags which are getting edit ASM. Okay, let me write section dot text global main. Okay, now if I write move ex comma ebx, and let me write now add ex comma ebx, and let me write increment ecx. Let me write subtract ebx comma ecx. So I'm adding say 3 add instruction, and then I'm writing move edx comma ebx. Now these instructions are not doing anything specific. I only wanted to show you an important register used internally for these operations called as flag, because after execution of every instruction, some action may be required to be taken at execution level. So what happens at that point of time? So let us try to compile this code. G dash subvar GCC 0908 dot o dash m32 dash g dash subvar. Okay, now let us try to execute this. Now, if we see the contents, so this is the code. Now, let me display my e flags. So this is an important register called flag register, and every processor does have this kind of register to support execution. And so let us set breakpoint. Now there are different flags involved or included in the 8087 architecture or 8086 architecture, no matter whether it is IA32, IA64 or whatever, or 8086 even. x86 architecture has a flag register and there are multiple flags. Try to find out in the manual what are the contents of flag register. Now currently we can see that there is a parity flag, zero flag, and interrupt flag. Okay, these are the 3. So each of them is having a specific position in the 32-bit positions. Okay, each bit position is defined with some specific flag or undefined status. Okay, because zero flag, parity flag, auxiliary, carry, all of them would be having some kind of number position associated with that flag or with that particular byte. As we are having this to be a 32-bit register, so some of the bit positions are occupied and some of them are not occupied. So this move instruction is a data transfer instruction. So this doesn't manipulate any of the flags. So if I say next instruction, you will see that none of the flag got affected. Now when I write add ex comma ebx, Now, if I try to display print $EX, it has some value. So EBX, it has some value. So if I say add EX comma EBX, what would be the result? We have these contents now. Both of them are 0. Correct. So if I write add EX comma EBX, what will happen? Result will be 0 still, because 0 plus 0 would be 0. So if I write NI, you will see that the flags kept as it is. Now when I increment ECX, so let me display what is value of ECX. ECX value is something. I don't know. This kind of it could be what you can call in your own language. You call it as garbage. So this is a garbage value. So when I fire this increment ECX, this would be minus. Will it be a 96 or 94? We are incrementing it. Okay. So whatever the value would be, is it going to be 0? No, definitely not. So if I write NI, you will see that my flags change because the result I got 94. This result is a negative. That's why this sign flag came into picture. And PF and IF remained as it is. So when I write this instruction again, subtract EBX comma ECX. So EBX value is 0. ECX value is negative. So negative, negative, positive. So let us see. We are getting this positive. So sign flag also was removed. Now we get carry flag added there. Even we got auxiliary carry 2. Auxiliary carry 2 after the 4th bit position from right to left. Okay, the 4th bit from right to left. There is a jump, like there is a 1 carry. That's why this auxiliary carry, and this carry flag is 8th bit. So each of the flag position is defined, and these instructions are going to make use of that. So how this flag register is to be used. Right. So if I now go to this move EDX comma EBX, this is again a data transfer instruction. It is not going to make any change into flag. So if I see NI, it will remain whatever the flag contents are, they will be remaining as it is. So majorly one can say flag values are getting affected with respect to some arithmetic and logical instructions only. Right. And there would be some, your execution control may depend on the flag status, the flag registers too. So let me introduce you, like for introducing you this flag only, I'm adding some instructions. I don't expect you to know these instructions, only see what is happening. Right. So let me take another code. So let me write here section dot data first db. This is my string. Okay. Section dot ESS. So let me define, like if you recall, I was talking about a directive called EQU. So let me define len EQU $dash first. So let me write second press B, and I am taking length of it to be same. Okay, so that means what? First and second will have same length. Okay, now let me write section dot text. So I'm actually writing a string copy code. Global main. Okay, this is string copy code. Okay. So let us say move ESI comma first, move EDI comma second, move ECX comma len, and you say rip move SB. Let us not use this code for a while. From the source address, rather, we will take first value. Okay, and we will put that value to destination address. So this is a typecasting that I am doing. Fine. EDI, AL. So it is like switching the values. So you are picking value from ESI storing it to 8-bit register AL, and then you are putting that same value back to EDI. And then you are saying decrement ECX, jump not 0 to LJ. This label 1, for example, label, and this label 1 is here. But now when we say this, ultimately this ESI and EDI should increase. So increment ESI, increment EDI, so that next value can be picked. Fine. Now if I go here and check this code, so NASM dash ALF 32 0908 dot ASM dash G dash F12. Made a mistake. I haven't LAB. We define like this. No? Let's correct it. Awesome. Okay, let us compile a link dash M32 0908 2021 underscore 01 dot ASM dash G dash bar. So let us do that. Now let us say display ESI, display EDI, display ECX. Okay, and let us say breakpoint main. Now try to concentrate on values. To move ESI comma first, so we are taking address of first into ESI. So we got this. So if I check contents of this $ESI, you should see like capital F. Oh, sorry, I added their space before. Like if you see the code, 1. So you should see here I added a space. That's why that space is added there. Correct? So like if okay, let us say next. So we have ESI and EDI together. Okay, let us see what is the length. So ECX is having 7. So how it came 7? Let us check it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this 0, 7. That's why this 7. Fine. Okay, so let us say next. So we are taking EDI value, like ESI value to EDI. So if I see now x/c dollar EDI, we do see /0. Okay, at 14. Okay, that means this 20 would be shown as 14. This is decimal number, this is X number. And the CDI. Fine. Let us say NI. So first character is moved. So if I try to display now, you should see that space. Earlier it was showing 0, correct? Now it is showing us space. So if I check with ESI2, you will see the same thing. First and second is having same value. Let me decrement NI. Sorry, increment ESI. It was 8, now became 9. So if I see, it is capital F, and EDI, it is increase. It is incremented. So if I check contents of EDI, it is again 0 because no character is added yet. Okay, now again we are decrementing this ECX NI. This became 6. So is it 0? So let us check E flags. 0 flag is not there, correct? So it goes back. Now see the line number. We are at line number 19. So it goes back to the earlier code. So it goes back to the label that you added 14. Now it is picking from ESI with AL. Okay, so you say NI. So even if you try to display the character with EX, it shows that first character captured is there. Okay, because you wrote this code. ESI contents now capital F, right? That's what we saw earlier. Right? Let us move. So it is added to EDI. So if I check contents of this, you got F, right? Copied. So let us continue this. Now you can see after decrement, flags are also changing. So 5, keep eye on this ECX. Huh? When it becomes 0, let us see what flag, how the control is, how the program is controlled in terms of execution. Now 3, now 2, now 1. Correct. So it is not showing here 0 yet. So let us move further. Now last character is copied. Increment EDI, now decrement ECX. Now you can see that there is ZF. So from 19 it was going to 14. Now it should go back to go to next value. So 20. So if there is no code, then you will see that it is not working with it. ECX became 0. So it is not going to that label 1. Correct? It is not showing any instruction. That means it finished execution. If I see NI, it is coming out of that code. Coming out of the code. So my string copy is done. So you can see that my flag register is controlling execution of the code. And that's what I wanted you to show. Okay, now simply, if I don't want this to be written, what assembly permits me, rather, only write this. Even remove this whole part. Remove this. You only simply write repeat move SB. Okay, and there is a function CLD. Not a function, but the instruction. This is direction flag. Okay. Now I will try to show you both the cases. So let me first show you this part of execution. So it doesn't require us to write any label over here. Okay. And if I go say some code GCC okay. Now if you see display ESI EDI display ECA breakpoint main. Okay, now let us display flags 2. Now you can see that it is working, it worked out completely. The contents also got changed, right? With every repeat. So let us see one more time. So PF, ZF, IF initially clear direction flag. So we don't have anything over there. So ESI first, EDI second, this 10. Now see, these two instructions repeatedly doing something. ECX is also getting decreased. This ESI and EDI also is getting increased. So let us see this. Is it changed? All three values changed by only 2 instructions. This repeat decreased ECX. This move SB incremented both, and before incrementing it, moved contents of ESI to EDI. This is done by this instruction only. Right. So if I try to see contents of ESI, this okay, because at 9. It is showing me something which is not rather addressed ultimately here, because they are pointing to next addresses. If I go and keep doing this, so it is showing me some ASCII characters there. Right. So this move SB may not reveal everything with you. Okay. Now I want another stuff to show you. Okay. Go here. Breakpoint main run. Now when I write CLD, okay. When we write move SB first time, see, sorry. I should display ESI EDI for you. Let me show again. Now concentrate on values of ESI and EDI. So we got ESI EDI set, right? We got ECX as well. Now when I write move SB first time, when it gets executed first time, so 9 and 21 would be there, correct? Okay. Now let me show you how this can be controlled. Instead of CLD, I will write now the instruction called STD. So this is earlier was clear direction flag. Now it is set direction flag. So now some GCC point main display $ESI EDI flags. Okay, let us run. Now see the contents. Huh? So STD, before executing this STD, we have PF, ZF, IF. If I say NI, you will see DF added. So this is direction flag. Now ESI, EDI contents are added. So see, address are given. ECX also got the value. Now when we write this move SB, concentrate on this. Earlier when we had CLD, this became 9, this became 20. Now when I write this because of DF, what happened is both the values got decreased by 1. So whenever you are going further and coming back, copying from right to left to right was okay. Like you have CLD, which is a by default. So your direction flag is not set by default. Okay, now you will see that major other another flag came into picture. I mean, there are there are limited flags, but they are defined by your architecture. What are the different flags in this case? So if you are implementing add, sub, or maybe a few other instructions, you definitely need to take care of that. That flags are really important. Okay, when your operation is whether it is negative, positive, 0, at least you can implement sign flag. You can implement 0 flag. 2 flags at least you can work out. Sign flag would be check whether whatever the result is currently, whether it is negative. If it is negative, then sign flag should be up. If it is positive, sign flag should be 0. 0, 1, 0, 1. You keep switching with this. Okay, with 0 flag, if result is 0, then 0 means Z flag should be 1. ZF should be set. And if it is not 0, then Z flag should be reset. Z flag would be only set. 0 flag would be only set when the result becomes 0. In this case, this repeat prefix is doing that task. So it doesn't care about manipulating those registers. Because this is move instruction. It is not taking care of anything rather. Move instruction doesn't make any change over there. That's why this ZF is shown. But if I use simply my earlier code, which we commented right now, at that point, arithmetic instructions are coming into picture because we wrote decrement ECX there. If you see the code, you can see I added the decrement ECX. This line was there. That's why that 0 flag got affected. And that's why we could write this jump not 0 to label 1 in our earlier code. Right? So I'm adding this code for your reference, and you can check appropriately these values rather. Values I mean to say the code, and you can try how the flags are getting affected. So I expect you to implement a 0 flag and sign flag only. I don't expect you people to work with either of the other flags. And so I have added that code for you. You can take that code, see this video again, and then try to generate the things by downloading it. Fine? Any question? So we worked out with flags today. In tomorrow's session, we will be working with simply how exactly to compute size of an instruction. Okay. So in tomorrow's class, we'll be working with size of the instruction. Fine? So if you have any questions, you can rather let me know right now, or you can pass it on to me via